I misplaced it for a second, but it looks like we're on here now. How is everybody? Who's joining us today?
There's Hans saying hello.
Hello, Hans. Welcome, welcome, those joining us.
Had a slight scare just before go live where Mark couldn't find his mouse.
Yeah, couldn't find it. I think it's because it's black and it blends. I got this massive black mouse pad and it just blends.
I would have been completely incapacitated if my mouse. Yeah, I don't even know how to navigate. I mean, I got three screens. I don't even know how to navigate around by keyboard only.
So are you on a hey Danny, hey Debbie, are you on a laptop or a desktop computer?
So I used to be on the Surface Pro, and I had a dock. And I had some other adapter. I don't know that let me run the three monitors.
Yep.
And that was good because I could kind of just pick it up and take it with me when we were going out of town, and I'd have everything that I would have here other than the monitors. But it just didn't have enough ass for some of the stuff I wanted to do. So I went out and bought a desktop gaming system.
Mm-hmm.
One of those Dell Alien gaming systems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I set that up instead for my desktop situation. And now, since we haven't been traveling, whenever I open up the Surface Pro, it takes about 45 minutes for it to synchronize everything before I can use it. So, and I don't see traveling coming in the near future. So that thing's just collecting dust over there.
No, Debbie, I increased my mic volume, so hopefully that's improved things.
It did, yes.
Excellent. Ken's joined us. Danny's joined us. How are we all?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Some people noticed, Danny's noticed I'm in a different office. I was just pointing out there before. See my designer taps here, my temporary taps, because I'm actually sitting in my future bar. So when I was building this and put this wall on, I asked the plumber just to put these, like cap off taps. That was before I had running water around the rest of the place. Hey, Patty, good to you to join us. And but this is where my bar will be, and I'm talking about full bar fridge, wine fridge, and then right up this wall will be a backlit for all my spirits and stuff. And then out in front of me here is going to be I'm not talking about just a lounge, I'm talking about a proper, I can serve people at a bar that come to my house, and we can make cocktails. And
are you going to have an elevator to go up the wine rack or anything?
Oh, well, I'm probably going to, on the other side of the room here, I'm going to do what I call a Harry Potter ladder, for a big tall bookshelf, because my stud height here, or my height to ceiling, is 3 meters. So definitely plan to utilize that.
Yeah, and you are actually like 1 meter, right?
Exactly. So 3 times me.
So this is like a Harry Potter ladder, right?
So true. Hey, Andrew.
So I teased out there that we got a special guest today, who's going to join us here shortly, just to help us fill up an hour, because Mark and I are kind of sick of carrying this whole hour by ourselves.
So who's joining us?
Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr.
Gus Gonzalez coming in right now. It looks like.
Excellent. Well, it looks like he might have stepped away from his computer there, by the looks to me.
I did tell him about 5 minutes in, and it's been 4, so maybe.
Okay, so I'm a bit early for him.
That's all right. He'll show up.
Well, he'll pop in at the right point. So, hey, there he is.
I guess I was just talking by myself. I said I got the memo for the white T-shirt. So, Steve.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't get that memo.
Oh, I need the Elevate logo. Is that a sticker?
No. What sticker?
It looks like a sticker stuck on a t-shirt.
What kind of cheap operation you think I'm running?
The kind of cheap operation I know you're running.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I've got an Elevate Solutions shirt that I got out of your cupboard, because you got a cupboard full of them just at the other end of your office there, right, Gus?
I think you got a CRM MVP podcast shirt.
It was too. Yes. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep.
So
Gus and I did a session the other day for some group. I can't remember which group it was or what event it was. He just asked me if I could join.
It was the UG Summit. What do you mean?
Oh, the UG Summit.
How did that go?
I mean, we had like 50 people or something join our session. 58. Yeah, it was pretty good. But we did a session how Dynamics 360 is the end of Dynamics 365 as we know it. It's the name of the session, and we mainly talked about Power Apps and why it makes more sense to start from scratch with a Power App rather than hiding all the stuff you don't need from a Dynamics 365 app. So that's was a whole hour talking about that. So that was good.
Okay, so was that kind of like a play on words title, kind of like my D365 is dead, where because why I asked this because we saw the earnings report and Dynamics 365 product suite of Microsoft is still the lion's share of all their income in biz apps.
Well, I think it will be for a while. First of all, it's been out for a long time. PowerApps is still getting traction, and it's more expensive, so it doesn't surprise me.
But you're talking about if you're going into a company tomorrow as a consultant or, selling to a customer, you're feeling that the place to start is direct on the Power Platform, start with a clean CDS and build your line of business application from there.
Yeah, for a lot of businesses, it makes sense to do it that way. I mean, it's the same effort or less in some cases, and you're paying what, a tenth of the licensing price. So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think your business has got to be pretty closely aligned to the first party apps to have them make sense. And most businesses are not that closely aligned with the first party apps, or you've got to have a real hard on for some of the features that are exclusive to those first party apps like Sales Insights or things like that. And frankly, everybody I've ever had to look at Sales Insights says that looks really cool, but we're not going to pay for it.
Right.
So, nobody's buying it or using it. It's one of those things that they think is cool. Now, of course, we're targeting a different kind of customer base maybe than what those apps are aimed at, but
The same with editable grids. When they announced that stuff, it was like standing ovation, during the conference, and now no one uses it.
No one cares about it, right? But those things we used to all get upset about back in the day in CRM, but now.
Well, even customers, we call them up all excited about editable grids, and they're like, so it was almost like an inside joke or something. They didn't get it.
No one cares.
Speaking of features, you see, I thought I would see you jump in on the Slack group on one that I posted out there that seems to have created some differences of opinion. I'd be curious to get yours, Gus. I had wrote, hang on, let me find it here. Oh my goodness, lots of people talking about it. I had wrote, can I get one good reason to make an option set local instead of global?
Well, there are reasons, but none of them are good. I can't think of one.
You can't think of one, neither could I. Well, a couple of people.
A couple of developers felt that there were reasons, right?
Yeah, Aiden Cascella had some opinions about, but I didn't think any of them really held water, and neither did most of the other people that jumped in. Andrew, UK Andrew had said something about clutter, like clutter,
Whatever.
What, in the database?
I can think of a ton of inconvenient reasons of why you don't want to use local, and go global. So global every time, never local. But I mean, I guess they're all theoretical, right? Like if you're in a business where you want to have a drop-down menu with options for lead, but then when you qualify the lead, you want to map those options to another option set that is completely different options. Like the labels are different. Like you go from, I don't know, from prospect to something, whatever. Like if you want to do something like that, then maybe using two local option sets would make sense. But again, they're all theoretical. I've never done that. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I haven't either. And the only reason I brought it up was because one of our larger clients was having some challenges doing some data import mapping and stuff like that. And they had created on their own. I knew it was them because it had the traditional customer prefix of new.
Yeah.
They created a local option set.
That was out of the box.
Yeah, they created a local option set on both sides. And now of course they got to keep them in sync and everything else. So this apparently they had done without my knowledge some time ago, and they've gone and added it to several forms, added to views, put it in some processes. So I spent, about 2 hours converting all of that crap into a global, and replace the fields, replace,
Mhm.
replace everything in all the views, workflows, reports. So it was 2 hours of bullshit for nothing, that had they created that as a global in the first place, wouldn't have even run into the problem. And it just got me thinking, I can't really think of a valid reason for a local option set. And some folks were saying, well, if it's never going to change and all that, you don't know that. You
Yeah.
don't ever know that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There are reasons, just not good reasons. I mean, you
Yeah.
can say, well, this is a drop-down menu that I'm never going to use in another, entity. So because of that, why would I, create a global one if I know I'm not going to use it anywhere else? Well, you don't know that. Things change all the
Never
time.
say never.
So
Never
it's not
say
a good
never.
reason. Another one is you're importing data, and the data you're importing is an option set, and you want to create it because you can create fields with the import data wizard. The import data wizard cannot create global option sets. It can only create local ones. So you may say, like, look, I was already importing data. I didn't want to go out of my way to create a global option set. I just created it with a wizard. Okay, that is a reason to do it, but it's not a good reason. You should do it as a global one. So there are reasons to do it, but they're all bad reasons.
Yeah.
I can't think of a good one.
So
And,
Debbie's wanting to know why it was a chargeable event. I assume she's talking about Summit when everything else is free. And the only answer I could say is because you and I were in the same session together. So it's clearly worth
Top
tons
quality.
of money.
Top
And
quality.
whatever they charged.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever they charged.
I have
Gus,
no idea what they did charge.
What's your opinion, Gus, on you over DCI's rise? And I felt that they really rose as an organization off the back of Convergence stopping, right? They really jumped in and filled the gap, because back in the day when we were doing it, Convergence used to have either the DCI event tacked on like a day before and into that kind of registration day, or a day after the event, or 2 days. And then, Microsoft dropped Convergence, and DCI went boom, kind of filled this massive void and became this big, 6,000 odd people going to this conference.
Well, Microsoft pushed the people there too. They
Totally.
thought, hey,
I mean,
fine.
Microsoft would show up with 100 speakers, and now this change. What's your take on the DCI world as of today, Gus? And I know that you probably can't say everything you'd want to say.
No, I'll say everything I want to say. I just think that there's a lot to unpack. So DCI as a company started, they weren't even related to CRM. They were doing some accounting stuff or something.
Right.
A long time ago. Yeah. And then little by little, they started adding the other products. The first event I went to was in 2012. I wasn't even an MVP yet. Or no, that was my first event as an MVP, actually. And it was 300 people. So 300 people showed up. Now, the reason for the UG Summit was because at Convergence, there are a ton of sessions about what's coming and the future. And let me show you what's coming up in the October release. Like, a lot of the sessions are like that. And people really wanted sessions about the stuff I already have. Like, I'm not on the latest and greatest. I'm 2 versions behind, but I'm struggling. Can you please have someone with experience talking about how they're getting over these issues, right? So UG Summit came up with the idea of, what if we do sessions about all the current stuff and old stuff even, and leave Microsoft to do all the future stuff, right? So that's how they started growing. But
which Microsoft still does with their Biz App Summit, is mostly all about the
new stuff.
The new stuff. Yeah.
Correct. So I think they fill that gap. They fill the gap of, look, I'm struggling to administer what I have. What am I going to be thinking about what's coming up in 18 months? Like, I don't have time for this. So a lot of people started going to the UG Summit and loving it. I personally loved it because I got to talk about the stuff that I've been implementing for years and years, because all the new stuff, none of us are experts about. Even though we get an early access to it as MVPs, when it comes out, we have a couple of months worth of experience versus 10 years worth of experience, which we have.
Well, I mean, I'm an expert, but I can appreciate that you're a little behind.
Exactly. So, Microsoft kept putting this together. People started complaining actually about Convergence. And what they did is they gave DCI 1 day of Convergence. Like, the last day of Convergence, they said, okay, you guys can host any sessions you want. We'll pay for the venue. You figure out the speakers and all that stuff. And most of us who deliver sessions at Convergence did it for DCI, not for Microsoft. Like, Microsoft wouldn't put us in because they wanted Microsoft people to talk about what's coming in the future, not MVPs. So we presented for DCI. Now, at some point, Microsoft decided to drop convergence altogether because they said, look, this DCI thing is working very well. You guys keep that crowd. We want to just talk about the future. And that's why I think Envision or whatever, I don't remember what was the name of
the weird in between thing.
Yeah, it was in New Orleans. Like people
Yeah.
went and they were like, what was that? Like no one liked it. And that is when
Wasn't it called a launch event or something?
I've got a good story about that event in New Orleans.
Yeah, I was supposed to go, and once Microsoft made the change and said there's no technical sessions at all, it's all about business or whatever, and it's all about the future of business and how we envision businesses to run. I'm like, okay, I'm canceling everything. I'm not going. I'll go to the second one based on the review for the first one, which were horrendous, and I never went to any of them.
It was shocking content.
Yeah. So the UG blew up at that point. I think at that point they were at the summit. They were probably like bringing like 1,200 people, from 300 to 1,200 when Convergence canceled, and then the next year they had like 6,000 or something. I mean, they really blew up, and people love the UG summit. And to be honest, like none of these events that we have now, like the Scottish Summit and the 365 Saturday events and all of that, none of that stuff existed.
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest problem for DCI. DCI, I feel like, is in a position where Garmin was when they were charging like $800 per GPS. And then Steve Jobs came up and said, oh, by the way, here's a free GPS on your phone. So
exactly.
how does that work for your business model when your competitors are giving away their stuff for free? It will throw it off big time. So that's I think what happened with DCI.
We definitely are of the opinion, at least the two of us here, we're gathering yours, that DCI is really kind of fucked. They need to come up with a whole nother. I mean, their entire business model is no longer valid. They're trying to.
But how do you compete?
Yeah,
the problem is.
I'm not one of these guys that said, why are they charging? I know why they're charging. They're a fucking for-profit business. You can't do that for free.
It's a business. Absolutely.
But they are up against, like you say, people doing it all this stuff, content for free now, and that's getting a chance. So they're gonna have to come up with some other idea.
Right.
I think Europe.
How do you compete with someone who wants to not profit from their events, like the MVPs that are hosting all of these events around the world, like Ian and Mark in Scotland? That event had over 1,000 people for free. Like,
so you take the Scottish Summit. I reckon the Scottish Summit is now what DCI's European Summit was. I reckon the European Summit is the Scottish Summit going forward. I mean, they're going to probably get 2,000 odd people attend this next one. It'll be bigger than ever. In fact, if you do it based on the metrics that I've seen other virtual, it might even get 5,000 people along at this event. I think they're very smart too. They're pivoting again in that they're really targeting new speakers, getting new speakers trained up. Therefore, they're inviting in a larger community all the time. And I just don't think like a European Summit's going to compete anymore, or will there even be one next year? Because I can't see, it's going to be another year, I think, before anyone's flying freely.
But It's interesting that they're still talking about the return of in-person events, which almost makes it feel like they're feeling like they only need to tread water now.
Yeah.
For a while, and then they'll be popping back up. If I were them, I'd be imagining that in-person events operate like they're never going to happen again.
Yeah.
And figure out a way to make money.
I think it changes your mindset if you do that, right? You start looking at how do we make money if it's not. And of course, if in-person comes back, awesome, you'll be able to pivot again. But I think if you go with the mindset, we will return.
Even if it comes back, because it'll never come back like it was, because of this virus and those going away, people have found other ways to get the information. Free events. So we don't need to go to any of those events anymore to get information. And we used to go there we didn't, but most of the attendees went there to get information. You don't need to anymore. So the only reason to go is to hang out with your buddies and party. There's really no other reason for those events, and by the time they are able to come back, I don't know. I mean, I see us all going just to hang out. But
in a lot of cases, the people that go to those events, I mean, that's their number one best thing about the event is they get to hang out with us on the booth, like the medics booth. They get to have conversations about, the problems they've been having for 2 months that one of us can resolve in 5 minutes. That is where the real value is. And there's no way to replicate that online. I just don't think so. I don't think it's the end of in-person events. You have to do it in person, but Scottish Summit was in person and it was free. I mean, it's just hard to compete. I mean, I think that obviously DCI has things that we can replicate for free to a degree. Like, for example, the forums and stuff. If there's a bunch of value on that, Mark and Ian and everyone is not going to be paying for some website where people are going to go and have conversations. But the dynamic community, which is Microsoft community, is free. So there's always kind of a way to get around a lot of the stuff that DCI offers. But, if you're going to charge people to be members of this thing, you have to give them value that they can't find anywhere else. Perhaps, training or whatever. Like,
let's talk about those forums, because I feel that Microsoft has taken that segment out of play as well. I feel that, the PowerApps community that Microsoft runs, the Dynamics communities that they run, those forums seem to have exploded over the last 2 years. And I'm wondering if people, when they look at getting support now, are just defaulting to the Microsoft's own forum assets, which, hey, all the community are in there answering articles hard out, giving results. I'm wondering if that kind of, area of the market they had is also disappearing. And then when you look at people they could post in that environment. Now, LinkedIn provide the ability for anyone to write articles or post. There's Medium, there's any number of, I'm just wondering if those kind of values, and then, the one I've always thought was training would be a good option to them to get into. But now I'm starting to wonder, is that boat sailed?
Yeah, did they move too slow? And and because of their moving slow, they've opened up doors for other people to jump in and plant flags in some of the spaces they might have been able to take their logo and reputation into. But by the time they get around to getting there, they might be too late. And the other thing to think about these live events, the three of us are we're all self-employed. We all made the decision to go to those events out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
Most of the attendees of that event are not in that position. Most of those attendees had to go get approval from some organization to pick up their plane ticket, pay the cost.
Yeah.
And even if the attendee wants to go again, their boss is going to be looking at, this last year, we didn't really suffer from you not going. You got all the information you needed from a bunch of free events. So, I don't know if I can justify that expense anymore. So that'll be another factor to deal with.
Gus, what's been happening in your world for the last, this year, really? What have you been up to?
I mean, a lot of the work that I used to do was remote. I've been working from home since 2014. So nothing really changed that much. I used to go on site once in a while and travel. That obviously stopped in March or whenever it was, February. I think the Scottish Summit was the last time I was on site somewhere. But other than that, just virtual work. We're very lucky about the fact that we can, do our jobs from anywhere pretty much. So that works.
But have you been flying, diving, anything like that lately?
Yeah, personally, I've been, the diving thing. I've tried a lot of things, and every year I try like a new skill. I try to learn something. Last year it was flying planes. I learned how to fly planes, but nothing really had, bit me to really, really focus on like as a hobby. And I think diving did that for me. So I became an instructor this year, a dive instructor, and
you got a podcast on it too, right?
I have a podcast, Dive Talk.
Wow.
And I continue to learn new things. Like this past weekend, I got certified as a cave diver, which is like the black belt of diving. A lot of people think that cave diving is once you become a cave diver, like that you made it kind of thing. It requires a special set of skills, and again, tomorrow I'm leaving for more training. I'm becoming what is known as a trimix normoxic diver, in which you breathe gases that have helium in them, and you can go deeper than recreational levels, so down to 60 meters.
So between your new diving hobby and my new power motorcycle hobby, neither of us might be around.
Exactly.
So pay attention to when you see us on these things. You never know when you've seen us for the last time.
Exactly.
So Gus, when you can travel again, you need to come down here to New Zealand, because just out my window here, I'm looking at what are called the Pornites Islands. And if you have a
Nice.
look there, there's the cave there is apparently the largest underwater cave in the world.
That's awesome.
I mean, like it got, some university did some measurements and validated, but Jacques Cousteau listed it as top 5 dive sites in the world.
Wow.
The poor
You
night.
already got a place to stay.
Yeah.
I wish I lived where Steve lives, because like an hour away from Tampa, or an hour and a half away from Tampa, is known as cave country in Florida.
Wow.
And that's where I got my cave diving certification. And there's miles and miles and miles of caves. Like the whole of, Central Florida, where Steve lives, is over just miles and miles of caves
Wow.
underneath. And it's pretty awesome. So actually, even tomorrow, I'm going there to High
I think our
Springs,
whole
Florida.
state floats basically on a big sponge, doesn't it?
I know. But I can't wait. I mean, one of the things I want to achieve in my life is dive in every continent. So I want to go to Australia and New Zealand and dive in that area.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool stuff.
Very cool. Very cool.
Motorcycles, diving. How about you, Mark? Just growing your beer. That's where you've been.
Yeah,
into?
just growing my bed, building my my home.
His risk is that he'll choke on his beard in his sleep.
Yeah.
It's good to finally have hair again.
Exactly.
I'm trying to catch up with John Cordone. He's got a savage beard on him.
Gus, I'm sure you remember as a kid those little magnetic toys that had the man's face and the little graphite. You take the magnetic and you put a beard on him and you put hair on him. And
of course.
That's what Mark reminds me of. He looks like
That's what somebody snapped that beer on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I don't know if you guys read the post Charles Lamana put up a couple of days ago.
Which one?
He listed an article about an Azure engineer has written a whole big piece on how much Azure has changed, etc., due to the Power Platform and Dynamics being ported from on-prem to to Microsoft's environment, and then one of there's over 1 million SQL databases now used to run CDS. And like CDS is now used, even in an F&O scenario, CDS is actually being deployed often behind the scenes for F&O. Not because F&O is sitting on them, but because if anyone's using Drill Right or anything, it goes across there. But if you can take a look at that article, actually, I'll post a direct link here in the chat to. It's called Running 1 Million Databases on Azure SQL for Large SaaS Provider, Microsoft Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. It was written on October the 8th, but a lot of the information in this article Microsoft has never revealed before. So this is the whole scaling of the platform.
I think I remember Charles saying that the business applications group was Azure's biggest customer. They spend more because they have to actually buy services from them. I'm sure they get a discount. I'm sure they get a discount, but these different divisions, obviously they run their own P&L, so you can't just have a bunch of my stuff. You got to pay for it.
I never understood. I never understood that whole dynamic between the different teams. Like I remember when I talked about like, why are trial environments so hard to get? Like, why can I just like click a button and just drop in a trial environment? Like it should be the easiest thing ever, let alone the fact that they expire after 30 days and all of that. Like, why is this so hard? Like, even for me, it seems like every month or two, they change the process and it takes like 30 minutes for me to get a trial. And I've generated thousands of trials, I assume at this point. And the answer was that it costs the business applications team $150 that they have to pay the SQL team every trial that is spun up. So regardless whether it's activated or not, cancel, whatever, doesn't matter. Every trial that goes up, it costs $150 to the business applications team payable to the SQL team. And I'm like, but you guys are the same company. Like what? Why is that a problem? Like, I don't understand. It's just,
I mean, they're the same company, but they're almost like subsidiaries under a parent, and subsidiaries would be the same thing. I've got my P&L and, I'm not going to let my P&L go in the tank because another division wants me to give them a bunch of free shit.
But how many customers have they lost because they can't get a trial? You know, who
but
knows?
you think about the top line of Microsoft, it's just moving money around. It doesn't matter, right? It's not, the business application group has to pay Azure, but the money's still Microsoft.
Yeah.
But,
But they do get to claim that the Azure profit went up 1,000,000% or whatever. And
exactly.
they've been double digit growth for the 47,000 quarter in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
But they still own
Because we're
5% of the
charging all of our
business.
subsidiaries.
Yeah, it's the same. Like, it's funny. Like, and you and I, Steve, we've been to the World Partner Conference now. I don't know what name it has now. But it's funny because when they announced that whatever product went up by 1,000% or whatever, there's always something behind. Like, for example, when they demanded that if you wanted to be a direct CSP, you had to pay for, pro support or whatever it was, advanced support. I remember it's like next year they're like, oh, our support team is up 4,000% in profit. Like, well, of course, you're forcing us to pay $15,000 a year. Thousands of partners out there paying that. Now that we're being forced, it's easy to claim it,
So by the way, I called their bluff on that. I canceled that support agreement because we weren't using it. It was just throwing.
No one uses it. Yeah.
15 grand. I mean, when I first was forced to sign up for this 15 grand a year, I told the team, I said, you know what? I want you to open a ticket with that team every time you fart. I want that. I don't care. We're not going to try and figure out anything customer support related anymore. As soon as a customer calls, you turn around, you just relay information back and forth. We're going to get our money's worth out of that deal. And we didn't do that. We didn't end up getting a habit. Didn't hardly use it at all. So,
no.
And I remember you talking about, you're gonna bail on that and not do it anymore. But there was this idea that if you do, you're not going to be able to sell CSP licenses anymore, and you can only service the customers you have, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I figured, you know what? We're moving to PowerApps, and we're making a big move to $10 passes. There ain't shit in the way of margin there anyway.
Yeah,
that's right.
So I don't even care about the license sale anymore. I used to be very passionate about, I want to sell the license because there's revenue there. I want to grow that. But now, I mean, it's pennies on the sidewalk. It's not worth picking up.
Nothing.
So
yeah,
I made the decision, fine, we're not going to renew that. And if I can't sell new licenses, I don't care. I'll tell them to go buy them from another partner. Go buy them yourself. I don't care. But it turns out it didn't do anything. I can still sell licenses just like I did before. So it was
Shocker.
another false threat of $15,000. I probably never needed to pay in the first place.
I never paid it. I told you, and you were like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna pay it." Like, no, it's
I did and canceled.
No,
ever buy it.
No, I never bought it. I never bought it.
I bought it for a year.
I never bought it, not even the first year. And the funny part is, I was there at the World Partner Conference, and I'm like, "Is there any option where you would charge me $15,000 per ticket instead of the $15,000 for unlimited support? I will sign the $15,000 per ticket." And they were like, "No, I'm sorry. There's no other options." It's like, I was so confident I was not going to use it once that I'm like, "You can charge me $15,000 if I open one ticket." And they were like, "No, we can't do it."
I should have known better.
I
should have known better, because we know that particularly around the whole business applications group, technically enforcing anything has never been their strong suit. We had the problem with team member. No enforcement. Now we've got, as we know, they've created this team member app that your team member can only access the app, and this is their step one of enforcing. At least they have figured out, if you've logged into this instance and you have a team member app, you're going to get funneled, or a team member license, you're going to get funneled to a team member app, which we've made, Microsoft has made, and it already complies. It has its limited capabilities. However, it's fully customizable. So, I mean, all they really did was make work for partners now to go in and replicate everything that they were doing before now on this new app, drag everything in there. And so their technical enforcement, whenever I look at any of these things now, and of course that $15,000 helps me look at it even closer. But is this worth taking a chance? Do they actually have any way to enforce this? Are they even worried about enforcing this? Or is this just
how often do they follow through with stuff? Like I had a call today because a customer said, hey, we got to talk about this. I got this email that the Outlook client is being killed. It's like the end of life or whatever. I'm like, is that the latest, or do you just see one from before? Because it's not the first time. So we had a call, and obviously I called them now. I'm like, dude, they've tried this several times and they can never kill this thing. I don't know what,
You
I
talking
don't know
about
what's up with
the
it.
old ComAd in? The old one?
The client, the regular client that you install, like, they've tried to kill that thing several times, and there it is. It's back on. So, by the way, if anyone from Microsoft is watching this, we're not complaining about this. Like, just keep on promising stuff and leaving it there. Like, it's worked out. It's worked out for us. So just keep it up.
I tell you where it bothered me, and it was unique in that support deal, which is on things like team member, Microsoft would acknowledge, yeah, we don't have technical enforcement, but we have a paper license and you're out of compliance and you need to stay in compliance, but no, we don't have technical. On the support thing for renewal, this guy is sitting there telling me that yes, if you don't pay it, you will. I mean, he's making up what's going to happen. You will be able to continue to service your existing customers, but you won't be able to add any more.
Satya will personally.
He's just making shit up.
Honestly, they don't know the answers for it.
No, he's making shit up to try and get me to renew. Yeah. So that kind of torqued me a little bit.
Satya Nadella will personally turn off your partner record if you don't renew right now.
Yeah, we'll see. So
I'm working on CDP. Got a project with CDP, the Customer Data Platform. Have either of you guys touched that, used it, looked at it?
Customer Data Platform.
Yeah, the Dynamics 365 Customer Data Platform, CDP. If I was to sum it up in one thing, I think it's master data management. As in ultimately what it provides.
Isn't that what like the old customer insights was based on? Is like gathering data from a bunch of sources and putting it into a master database or something like that?
Yeah. So the idea is that I suppose the difference is, rather than humans deciding what the linkage is, algorithms, AI does it. So basically you could take your point of sale data, you could take your Wi-Fi data in store, you could take all your customer surveys, you could take
social media stuff,
website, all that kind of stuff, and go, okay, who is this one customer that we have? And therefore, if we know that and we apply other social graphic demographic data to it, what's the likelihood of them leaving our business? In other words, churn. What's the likelihood of them being upsold to this product? What's the likelihood of them talking smack about our business? And what can I do to address that?
Is that just a new name for, as Gus said, Customer Insights, which I think
it's been out for a year now. It's been out for a year.
I think that's the name of
Customer
the
Insights.
platform.
Dynamics 365 Customer Insights is the product. CDP is the category space that all companies are competing over.
Yeah, I've demoed Customer Insights a bunch of times. I've never implemented it. It's like Steve said, it's one of those like, wow, this is awesome. Let's just start with sales and then we'll get that nailed down, and then customer service, and then portals.
It's like, can I export this list?
Yeah. I mean, sorry, I just see in the comments there on YouTube, this is Customer Insights I'm talking about. CDP is kind of like the word CRM. It's a category of software. CDP, Customer Data Platform. You can go to Wikipedia. It doesn't say Microsoft owns this term. There's 10 different companies that do customer data platforms. Customer Insights is Microsoft's product.
Speaking of CRM, since Microsoft dropped the customer engagement part of the name now of the apps, why don't they just call it Microsoft CRM? I don't know, like, what company in the world is researching for Dynamics 365? Everyone goes and says CRM. Like, what's the best CRM? Like, everyone is searching that. No one knows the name of Microsoft unless you work with it, like us. What is it? Like, why can't they just name it Microsoft CRM for sales, Microsoft CRM for customer service, and make it super easy to be found?
I understand why they wanted to stop selling the customer engagement plan, which I think is where that customer engagement name came from, was bundling these together into that customer engagement plan that included everything. And that one got abused by Microsoft sellers because they were discounting that plan significantly for enterprise. And this was actually according to Alyssa Taylor. They were diminishing the value of the product because they were selling a enterprise plan that included everything to a customer for less than what another customer might pay for sales alone, and diminishing the value of the product. So that's why they decided we're going to get rid of that plan and go back to these individual with add-ons. Now it's the individual apps with add-ons to try and, shore up the value proposition of that thing.
But people are still
the customer engagement name along with the plan.
Yeah, but the name is still sticking, like CE, as in people are still referring it. Like Prashant has said there, the trial is still customer engagement. Microsoft internal, I've been on a bunch of calls with staff this week. Everyone internally still referred to it as CE, as in to separate from the finance side.
Yeah, exactly. You have to somehow differentiate it from the ERP stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And all these things, whether it's, field service, customer service, they're all running on the common data service, the customer engagement. So they need to, maybe they call them customer data CDS apps. I don't know, but they do need to have a kind of it's like a category.
I think that will be my first action. You know how we talked about like what would happen if you take over as, whoever, like you're within the team, Charles Lamano, if you can do that for a day, what would you do?
Yeah.
And if I took over, that whole business application, I would rename Microsoft CRM, Microsoft ERP. That's it. Like no finance and operations, and like no one is searching for those terms. Just call it the standard CRM and ERP. I don't get it.
Hey, Tiago's online.
Okay,
yes, I did attend his customer events. He did he's with Microsoft, or was at the time. I'm assuming he still is.
And there goes my MVP award. Thanks.
He did the customer insights app in a day training for partners at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, good guy.
Ken, don't get us wrong, as in we're just talking smack. He's like, you guys for the last 6 months have just shat on biz apps constantly.
Yeah, but thank God we have hardly any viewers.
Here we go. We've all lost our MVP now, Ken.
3 less MVPs in the family. Nice.
Hey, Tiago, so do you have a current pitch deck on how you sell customer insights? As in, I'd be keen to see it.
Well, it's Microsoft, and it's been 6 months, so he's no doubt in a completely different role now.
As in, I'd be interested to really, like, when I look at all the partners that have sold customer insights, they're all partners I've never heard of. In other words, they're not traditional implementation partners. They're more kind of like data scientists type partners, data analytics type customers, that type of thing.
Yeah. We've tried a couple times.
A lot of the people that left, they were forced to leave DCI, are now with Microsoft. I heard Microsoft.
I see Tony has gone back to Microsoft, hasn't he? Tony Stein.
Yeah. Well, they came from Microsoft too. To DCI, so they're going back there, which is cool.
So LinkedIn notified me the other day that I've been connected to James Phillips for 3 years, and I was like, oh, hello. So if you think there's James Phillips, Ryan Jones, Ryan Cunningham, Charles Lamana, Steve Siciliano are kind of those big core leaders of that original team that, took over this world. Aren't they ready for promotion or move ahead in their career, move on to new roles? Do you think that they've got that appetite? Like, I always feel that sometimes people are farmers and sometimes people are, hunter-gatherers and go and build the new thing. The new thing's kind of built. Do you think they might be going and looking for their next big challenge? Or do you think they're here for another 3 years?
I think there's a point where you've kind of gotten out of someone the best you're going to get out of them.
Yeah.
And, it's like a sponge, right? You've squeezed the bulk of the water out of that sponge, and then after that, it just drops. I don't think they're there yet. And as long as that sponge still has a lot of water in it, I think they pay them whatever they need to pay them to keep them from looking elsewhere, dissuade anybody else. And, obviously Salesforce in the past has taken some of our our talent before, and I'm sure there's no doubt that every one of those people you just mentioned has been hit on by Salesforce people multiple times. So I'm sure
I
made
bet.
some pretty strong offers.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, there'll be a point where, you know, it'll be time for some new blood. You know, our new blood right now will become the old blood. There'll be a time for new blood. But you know, these
I
are
mean, a lot of those guys are very young from a career perspective, and they've achieved so much in the early parts of their career. You'd think there would be still quite a strong trajectory for them for what's next, what are they going to invent next? You know, I mean, I remember a podcast you did, I think, with Charles Lamana, where he talked about the number of they get a star or something for every patent they secure.
Yeah.
And he's apparently got a shit ton of them.
Got a whole bowl full of them on his desk of these little marble things that Microsoft gives when they get a patent. Of course, that patent's owned by Microsoft. His name is on it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not anything he's going to necessarily profit off of other than go on his resume.
Yeah.
But you know, you also have to think these are young guys, and you know, they can get bored.
Yeah.
I mean, what seems exciting, you know, I'll give you an example. I took a motorcycle ride with a couple of guys this past weekend. We were going, I don't know, 85 or 90 miles an hour down back roads.
Oh, no, you mean on a closed circuit with the professional drivers?
No, these were regular open roads.
Oh, okay.
Very
So
exciting.
you're admitting to illegal law.
breaking the law. And I had a beer in my hand too, so that made it.
Well, but if you have a beer, I think that the law is if you're holding the beer outside the car, it's not in the car, so it's not really, you know.
But my point
container.
is, we went about 200 miles, and then for the first hour, it was really exciting. But after about an hour and a half of going 90 miles an hour down back roads, it kind of got boring. It's still from the outside looking in would seem like, oh my God, that's got to be exciting. But even exciting stuff can get boring if it becomes a little too routine and too monotonous. So I could see, guys like Charles, guys like Steven, guys like Ryan Jones in particular.
Yeah.
Maybe reaching a point where, this just doesn't excite me as much as it used to, even though it's really exciting to everybody else. And wanting a new challenge, and maybe even whole different things, out of the industry completely. Who knows?
Totally.
They got to have all made decent money in this run. They become critical cogs that the whole business application group is completely dependent on. They cannot afford to have them leave.
Yeah.
If they've negotiated well, I'm sure they've made good money for their age. Shit, they may just retire.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think it all depends on what goals you have, right? With the team. I think that if you have some short-term goals, like, I don't know, I'm going to launch this CDS thing and I'm going to make sure that it's adopted and it's global and whatever, then once you do that, then I think you can get bored. But if your goals are bigger, like I want to beat Salesforce market share, I'm talking about like James Phillips, so like at that level, then there's a lot of work to be done. Like you're not nowhere near that goal. So I think it all depends on what kinds of goals you're setting for yourself. So I don't know what Charles Amana has as a personal goal for his current position, at Microsoft. And, I think that
hold on a second. Hang on a second.
You want to call him?
I'll call him up and ask him.
Okay, cool. But I think that you are right that once you hit whatever goal you had for that particular position, you'll start looking something else.
Yeah.
Just back
to Ken's question. He was saying, he goes here, I'm actually asking the last 6 months seem more turbulent for Microsoft Biz Apps. From a financial perspective, the data shows that Microsoft Biz App has never been doing better. They are making money hand over fist. I think, if anything, it's our lack of connectedness with COVID that might have, put this turbulent type feel in place. And also,
turbulence. I'd be curious to know what he means by turbulent, because I'm not feeling turbulent.
But it might be just that you and I talk smack on stuff that nobody else will talk smack on. If everyone, wants to blow wind up each other's dresses if you're fanboying inside the organization. And sometimes we just tell it how it is, I suppose, as well.
Well, that was kind of the idea of the show originally, Gus. And just so you know, Mark and I used to have a phone call once a week, long before this show, just the two of us, just for an hour, just talking about what's going on in the space. And when we decided we wanted to do some kind of a podcast, we thought, well, let's just stick this out there on the air and just have our
Might as well.
conversation.
Exactly.
And we used to talk smack to each other and swear to each other. So we said, you know what, fuck it, that's the show. And people will like it or not like it, and we don't really even promote it. So it's really still serving the purpose of me and Mark catching up. There just happens to be some people listening now here and there.
Yeah.
I do have a question about Microsoft though, for you guys, which is they announced, whether it was today or yesterday, I don't remember, that they're going to allow employees that are working remotely now to work remotely forever. Like, don't come back to work, regardless of COVID. What's going to happen with all those buildings in Redmond if, in fact, let's say 50% of the employees decide to stay and work from home?
They've had massive construction projects underway out there too, building a bunch more buildings and modernizing buildings. I mean, massive investment. You got to look at a lot of those things that, they're probably second guessing. Boy, I wish we'd have known, but they probably wouldn't have invested the kind of money they have into the campus.
But it's probably not big money in the scheme of things, right? As in for them. And the other thing is, I mean, that article
billion here, billion there, it adds up.
Yeah, but like when you're $1 trillion business, even billions are not that big, But I think, I mean, that article that came out was Satya talking, and it was saying that unless you had to be physically present, like in a server room and stuff. And we know a lot of that's not even on those campuses. These are big server farms. And we know the number of staff to run these server farms now are quite small. There's so much automation around it. So I think it is interesting. And I think we still haven't really come to terms with what the new world's going to look like from all that office real estate. I mean, how many office buildings and stuff around the world, like put Microsoft aside, but companies are going to totally reassess their need for big physical footprints.
Yeah. I think that, I moderated the Women in Technology session last week, and there was a really, really good question there. It stuck with me, where they said, look, I work for a company where employees have never been more welcoming of changes due to COVID. Like, okay, you're now working from home. Okay, you now have to install this thing at your house. Okay, we're going to send you a monitor and you're setting it up. Like, and they're like, yes, let's go. So they're saying, like, I wish that kind of enthusiasm and willingness to adopt new things could be like bottled up and maintained for a while, because then implementations like Dynamics and things like that will be a breeze if everyone was so welcoming of changes, right? When those programs come. So it is true. Like, there's a lot of companies out there that have now a bunch of employees who are willing to change and work from home and make it work, that they might sit back and be like, look, we're not missing that home, a lot by not having an office. So we're good to go. And if we stay remote.
Yeah, and it definitely varies by industry. I mean, I know one of the restaurants that I go to decided to have all of their waitresses work remotely, and it just didn't pan out at all. Took like forever. Took forever to get a drink.
You can't work at an assembly line remote, right? So there are some businesses that you have to get back to work for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's more the information worker, right? Anybody in that space, whether it's a legal profession, accounting professions, some of the two longest standing, I think both of those can really lend themselves to be 100% remote. And then all the space that we operate in, developers, implementers, all that kind of stuff, most of it doesn't need to be in person.
Yeah. What do you got coming up, Gus? What's your next, this summit's just wrapping. Is there some other things that you're going to be talking at or speaking at?
Nothing that I can think of. I know that there are some other conferences stuff going on virtually, at the moment. I had committed to the UG Summit. I had a bunch of presentations there, and that's it.
Are you a consumer of this content? Do you go and attend any of these events, or you just do your presenting and
I attend some sessions if they are about the stuff that I do, and I've been outspoken about this. I don't like to attend sessions about the stuff that I don't know about. The whole goal or that whole idea that, oh, I don't know anything about customer insights, let me go and attend 10 sessions about it. I don't think it makes sense. I want to attend sessions about solution architecture. I want to attend sessions about being a better speaker, being a better podcast host, like, because even if you're the best in the world at what you do, it doesn't matter. You should always continue to work on that and get better and better and better. So yeah, if I see a session that is, from someone that I'm going to get value from, I like to attend it. But I see, on Twitter or whatever, it's like, coming up next, whatever, Nick Dolman is talking about portals. It's like, I'm not a portal guy, so I'm not going to attend those sessions. I'm not a, serial attendee of every session I can get my hands on. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't do that.
So you and Mark both share one common trait that I'm aware of, and that is you both generate a lot of content. I don't know that anybody generates as much as Mark, because he's got nothing else to do.
Mate, I don't produce it anymore. Like, I stopped as in January after moving back from the UK. I have not, I was blogging twice a week last year. I blogged, I think, once this year. I'm nowhere near
on the
producing.
pod side.
I'm sticking with the podcast because I've got a rhythm on that, so it works,
And you've got 3 or 4 different pods, right, Mark?
Yeah.
And
just 3.
Gus, I think you've got a couple of different, like, I don't know what you call them, channels or different tacks of podcasts. You got your 2-minute Thursdays or
2-minute Tuesdays, yeah.
Oh, so you got 2-minute Tuesdays and Thursdays now. So
no. I'm waiting for somebody to get the 20-minute Thursdays or whatever they decide to do. But I got the 2-minute Tuesdays. I started it, it's going to be 3 years in January, and we do it every week. We've never missed a single week in almost 3 years.
A total of 2 hours?
for 2 minutes. Yeah, for a total of 2 hours overall. But so the idea, I started the podcast mainly because I was listening to other shows, and there were some things that I think I'd remember what set me over the edge was I listened to the CRM audio episode about training, and you had these 3 guys talking about training, and it's like Joel is not a trainer, Sean is not, and obviously they know about Dynamics a lot, but they were just speculating like, oh, the people who write these questions for the Microsoft exams, they don't know what they're talking about. I actually know the people who write the questions for the exam. So I was like, I'm going to start my own show and talk about that. And that's why episode 1 of the podcast was about training.
Gotcha. You weren't using a potato as a microphone or anything, were you?
I was what? Yeah, exactly.
You weren't using a potato as a microphone.
And so I started doing that, and I started doing it every 2 weeks, but I always try to pick topics that I can talk about for 45 minutes to an hour or so. But then there's a bunch of little things that I remember, little tips and here and there that are 5 minutes long, 2 minutes long, 10 minutes long that I cannot record in a show. They don't make sense in a podcast. So that's why I started the YouTube channel. And, we have about 1,500 subscribers right now, 1,400 and something.
Nice.
And growing. Obviously, I'm not the biggest out there or whatever. There are people that have tens of thousands of subscribers, but I don't have to be. Our videos get a few hundred views every time, and if I'm helping, the way I'm doing, I don't have any sponsors or anything. If I'm getting a few hundred people to watch it and helping a few of them, I'm doing my job as an MVP. I feel.
So you got two shows, right?
Well, the dive talk is just for fun, right?
Yeah, that's but you got your 2-minute Tuesday.
Yeah.
Is
the 2-minute Tuesday.
Thing?
Yeah, the 2-minute Tuesday I do every week, and then the podcast every 2 weeks.
Which is the CRM MVP podcast, right?
CRM MVP podcast, yeah. And then once in a while I hit go live on the channel and I ramble for like 30 minutes or whatever.
I've accidentally stumbled into that before.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, I have some time right now. Let me go answer some questions on the community or whatever. So I'll hit go live and I'll share my screen and I'll answer them live with everybody watching. And by everybody, I mean 3 people or whatever watching.
Yeah. So when you do that, that would be people have to be subscribed to the channel, and then they would get some sort of alert saying Gus just went live.
So I just put a link to your channel in YouTube there. So if folks want to jump on that, hit that link, subscribe. And that's CRM MVP Media, right?
Yep, CRMMVPmedia.com will take you straight to the channel.
Cool.
Well, continue.
I've
With
got
that
to bounce,
effort right
guys.
there,
I've got
you're gonna-
somebody waiting in a Teams
Yep.
meeting for me, so I gotta hit. Good talking to you all.
We did get Gus 2
Absolutely.
more subscribers, so.
Ciao,
Oh,
ciao.
there you go. Thank you.